Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Cecilia Venosta-Weigel. I'm President of the Center for the Women of New York. And tonight we have a hot topic. Kathy was just saying that it would be hotter than taxes. So we had the last few months. We have car ownership, buying, leasing, and selling, and the current unique market conditions. The Center for the Women of New York helps women overcome financial, violence, social wellness, and legal issues by raising awareness and advocating for full gender equality for women, understanding their needs, and connecting them with CWNY services, nonprofit partner organizations, and public resources to aid, uplift, and address their challenges. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to women empowerment and gender equality since 1987. CWNY's volunteers, members, sponsors, advisory board, and board of directors all together make CWNY's mission possible. Our philosophy is that when we help women, families become self-sufficient, making our entire community stronger. Some of the programs and services that we have are our referral and advocacy program, financial literacy workshop series, which is this one, career workshop series, women in crisis support group, and another support group for caregivers, for those of us who take care of our aging family members. We just did a one-on-one tax preparation assistance. We will have it next year as well. So if you need help with your taxes next year, we'll be there to help you. We just started our gardening and sustainability workshops at Fort Totten, one of our two locations. And it was a beautiful workshop. We had many ladies learning about sustainable gardening. We did hands-on activities. So if you're around, if you're close by, please join us. It seems like there's interest, so we'll be continuing that series of workshops. We have ESL classes for beginners. Well, it's actually a conversation class and a legal support team that answers to your inquiries via email. In case you are in the area, on Saturday, we have a ceremony, a street co-naming ceremony and tree planting in honor of our founder, Angelina Jowin. It will be in Douglaston. On like the street that will be co-named is 233rd Street and the intersection with 39th Avenue. And it will be at 11:30 a.m. So if you're around, please join us. We'll be honoring her and her legacy. This is the gardening, which is bi-weekly on Thursdays morning. Please check out our website or take a screenshot, like a picture of the screen to find out, the dates. But it is on Thursdays, bi-weekly from 10 to 11. Again, thank you for joining our workshop today. We have, let me see. Oh, sorry. Like I think I misplaced that slide. We're also having this art exhibit, this Artivism, Art for a Purpose. It's sponsored by Adelphi University, and we are one of the several venues that the exhibit has. We've had 2 Saturdays. We're having it this coming Saturday from 1 to 5, and we will have it 2 Saturdays in June, which are the 11th and the 18th. You can also come and get inspired and do some art of your own. On the lawn if it's nice day, or inside of the building if it's not. On June 4th, we'll have a yoga day. It's a International Yoga Day, and it's sponsored by the Indian Embassy. If you'd like to see past events that were virtual, you can find them at cwny.org/past-events. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. They will be addressed at the end of the presentation. And if you dialed in, you can email them to events@cwny.org. Welcome, Kathy Carroll. Kathy is a professional accountant. She has been practicing accounting and providing bookkeeping services since 1981 to the present. She works with individual and corporate clients. She directed and ran the Student Association Income Tax Preparation Program at Queens College for 26 years. She also ran an annual seminar at the International Students and Scholars Office at Queens College. And these programs have been free to the public on campus. And that's what we did this year as well in the center. Kathy received her BS in accounting from CW Post Center of Long Island University and attended a graduate program at NYU. Kathy volunteers at the Center for the Women of New York. She is our current treasurer and former vice president of finance. She provides job and vocational training, presents at our financial literacy programs, and is in the CWNY Work Readiness Program advisor. Kathy, welcome. Thank you so much for teaching us about car ownership tonight. I'll turn it over to you.
Cecilia. Yes, and thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone who participated in the tax program that we had at Queensborough Hall and Fort Totten. And thank you for listening to the tax preparation series in the financial literacy series. I think that probably the webinar tonight will be a little more interesting than taxes. So what we're going to speak about tonight is cars and car ownerships, benefits and advantages and disadvantages. The automobile was a world-changing invention. In our modern society, it is hard to imagine a world in which there are no cars on the street. Cars are everywhere we look, and sometimes it seems like there are way too many of them in one place. But over the course of history, the automobile is a relatively recent invention. The first car was patented by Carl Benz in 1886. Henry Ford popularized the automobile in the United States in the early 1900s with his system of mass production, which made it possible to manufacture affordable cars for the public. The development of the automobile changed the world. In present times, the ownership of a car can change the owner's personal world. The purchase of a car is a fairly major decision in one's life and is a relatively expensive asset that hopefully will provide years of satisfaction and service to the purchaser. Like any other major purchase in one's life, research should be done and care should be taken to ensure that the car fits the needs and finances of the buyer. Cars provide convenience of travel and increased time management for owners. A car allows one greater flexibility in performing daily tasks such as shopping and transporting children to and from school and other activities. Many jobs may require the use of a car. Despite the many advantages to owning a car, there are some disadvantages to be considered as well. The first and foremost would be the cost of the car. In addition to the purchase price, there are many other costs that one must consider in car ownership: insurance, gas, potential repairs, and depending on where one lives, potential storage costs for the car. For example, if you live in a neighborhood that's very congested, I have quite a few friends that live over in the Ridgewood area, and there's basically like no street parking. So the friends that I know not only have to maintain and buy the car and everything else, they have to pay for a garage to keep it in if they don't have one with their house. So all of these things can have a substantial impact on one's monthly budget. Leasing versus purchase. Now, these are the two typical ways that people own cars, because when you lease a car, you technically don't own the car, but it's very similar to ownership. But when obtaining a vehicle, there are two types of ownership to be considered. One option is the purchase of the car, which can either be a cash purchase or involve financing, taking out a loan on the car, or leasing. Leasing is defined as a contractual obligation, a contractual agreement with monthly payments for the use of the automobile over a set period of time. That's typically 3 to 5 years. At the end of the lease term, the vehicle is usually returned to the leasing company. And this definition comes from the textbook that I've been using for the financial literacy series. This is Kapoor, Focus on Personal Finance, the 6th edition. The upfront costs of leasing a car are typically less than similar costs involved in a purchase. The down payment usually consists of a security deposit, the sales tax, and possibly 2 months advance payment. The monthly payments may be less than the monthly payments of a financed car. However, in a lease situation, the car is not actually owned by the purchaser. At the end of the lease, it must be turned in and exchanged for a newer leased car, or the present car can then be purchased at a residual value, which in turn may need to be financed. So at the end of the lease, if you've been paying monthly payments, whatever it is per month, and at the end of the 3 or 5 years, the residual value is, let's say, $15,000 or $20,000, you would have to what's called buy out the car, and then you might need to get a loan at that point. So that's a situation where the lease may eventually turn into a purchase situation. The major benefit of purchasing a vehicle rather than leasing it is that one actually owns the vehicle. This is an important distinction, particularly if one drives frequently. Many leases, although they are contracted as specific monthly payments, will charge for extra mileage at the lease end. For example, if the lease is limited to 12,000 miles annually and one drives 20,000 miles, this will lead to increased charges at the lease end. If the car is owned, then the amount of miles driven has no impact on the cost. Similarly, at the end of a lease, one may be charged for damages to the car, even if they are slight. Although everyone hopes that their car would not sustain damage of any kind, small damages such as scrapes and dents are almost inevitable over time, such as like when you're in a parking lot and someone opens a door, or somebody just scrapes up against the car a little bit. In a lease situation, that all gets considered. And if you own the car, I mean, obviously you're going to be upset if something like that happens, but it's not going to create an additional cost unless you decide yourself that you want to fix it. But with a lease car, when you go to turn that in, the company is going to say, oh, this happened and that happened, and they'll charge you. So it'd be additional fee at that time. The most important thing in either situation is to read the contract. Whether you're going to lease or buy the car, it is very important to read the contracts carefully and be sure what you are signing. This is true in case of any contract that you're signing for any reason. Both leases and purchases, if financed, involve interest on the monthly payments. It is important to know what the interest rate is and what you're being charged. Interest on auto loans and leases are affected by one's credit score and can vary widely, which can significantly increase the monthly payment in each case. A poor credit score may prevent one from obtaining a lease. In the situation of leasing a car, I think that the credit is looked at much more closely than in the case of buying a car. In both cases, they're very important, but car dealership is much more likely to help you obtain a loan for a purchase if you have a lower credit score than to give you a lease. In obtaining a car lease, the term cap cost is often heard. The term capitalized cost or cap cost related to car leasing refers to the amount that is being financed with a lease. The lower the capitalized cost, the lower the monthly lease payment. Cap cost includes the negotiated price of the vehicle, plus any add-on fees or taxes that will be financed, not paid in cash at the beginning of the lease. This comes from a source, www.leaseguide.com, the definitions, glossary. Another important decision, in addition to whether to lease or buy, is to determine whether a new car or a used car is the most appropriate vehicle for one situation. While it would be ideal for everyone to be able to buy a brand new car, this option may not be economically feasible for all. A used car may be a good purchase if it is purchased from a reputable seller and the car is thoroughly vetted before purchasing. In the case of used cars, many of you have probably heard the term certified pre-owned vehicles. These are nearly new cars that come with the original manufacturer's guarantee. That definition comes from the Kapor textbook. Many certified pre-owned vehicles are actually cars that have been turned in at the end of their leases and are now available for resale. That would be in the case where a person with a lease did not buy out the car and they turned it back into the dealership and they got a new car in its place. So then their old car is available for resale. A valuable source of information in the potential purchase of a used car is the vehicle history report. One can purchase individual vehicle history reports or a subscription for a limited time, usually the number of weeks it takes to shop for and buy a used car. Carfax charges $39.99 for a single report, or you can get an unlimited number of reports for 60 days for $54.99. AutoCheck is $24.99 for one report, or 25 reports for 21 days for $49.99. A vehicle history report tells you everything a prospective buyer needs to know about the car's past. Keep in mind, though, that the report doesn't tell you the current mechanical condition of the car. It only tells you if the car's been in an accident or if some other issue has come up with the paperwork related to the car. It's not related to the mechanics of the car at all. However, since it tells you how the car has been treated, you get a pretty good idea of the current condition and the value of the car. All this information indicates, without even going to physically inspect the car, is whether you should buy it. For example, if you get a Carfax and it tells you the car's been in several accidents, it may be a good idea not to buy it because you really don't know what the effects of accidents may be on the car once you have it. Here's a quick breakdown of some information that the vehicle history report provides. Salvage title. If a car's been in a serious accident, fire, or flood and was totaled by the insurance company, declared a total loss, it still might be drivable. However, the insurance company will issue a salvage title to alert future buyers. In most cases, you want to steer clear of salvage titles because they kill the resale value and the car still may have hidden problems. So in the case of a car with a salvage title, would be probably not worth it to buy it at all, or to understand that you might not be able to sell it in the future. And consequently, if you really do have some need to buy this kind of a car, you would probably have to pay a very low price for it. But this has come up a lot in recent years with all these floods and things that have been going on with the weather. A lot of cars have been getting flooded and they're still around, they're still on the streets, but they would wind up with this kind of a salvage title if the insurance company has totaled them out. Accidents. Serious accidents are reported to the insurance company and will probably be on the vehicle history report. Occasionally, minor accidents are also listed. So don't assume every accident is a reason to rule out an otherwise solid used car. I would think that that's true, but as I said before, if a car's been in a number of accidents, it might be best to stay away from it. Odometer rollbacks. Shady car lots might spin the odometer back to increase the vehicle's selling price. History reports alert you to this scam. This kind of situation, I think, is less prevalent than it may have been in the past, because certainly with computerized odometers and everything that's in a modern car, it's a lot harder to roll back the odometer than it used to be when it was just a mechanical function on the dashboard. But obviously it must still occur because this is from recent information that I researched. So this is just something to look out for, because obviously a car that has low mileage on it is going to be much more valuable than a car that has higher mileage on it. Number of owners and how it was used. It's nice to think the car you're interested in was driven only to church on Sunday by a little old lady, but maybe it was a leased car or even used as a taxi. And that's certainly something that could come up nowadays with everybody using their cars for Uber and Uber Eats and everything else, delivery and DoorDash. If you order the report, you'll know for sure each time it changed hands. Maintenance records. Sometimes service visits are listed on the vehicle history report, showing the routine maintenance or repairs performed by a mechanic. This is most likely if the car was serviced at a car dealership rather than an independent garage. This most likely would apply to new cars because most new cars that are under a warranty, you're pretty much obligated to bring them to the dealer to be serviced, especially early on in their life. So if the dealer is keeping track of what they're doing, the maintenance, then that would be on the vehicle history report. If you just take the car to your regular mechanic, it's less likely that this information would be reported. Recall information. This is useful information, but it can be checked for free on other sites. And that actually is the case because if you go to the website of certain of the car manufacturers, they'll tell you which cars have recalls and what the recalls are. And this information about the vehicle history reports came from www.nerdwallet.com. Although the vehicle history report is an important tool in determining if a particular car should be purchased, it is also important to have the car checked by a mechanic. Since most dealerships will not let a car off their premises prior to purchase, one may have to bring their mechanic to the dealership to give at least a cursory look for potential problems. I don't think the dealership's going to let them, go under the car or any of that, but they may be able to take you on a test drive with it and tell you if there's anything that's obvious that might be wrong with the car that you just as a typical buyer may not know about. Both new and used car purchases can be financed. Depending on what's credit, a higher down payment may be required or a higher interest rate may be charged. Most dealers have access to many different financing sources, and oftentimes the question is not, will a purchaser get a loan, but will the loan be favorable, and what will the terms of the loan be? In the past, auto loans were typically 3 to 5 years, but during about the past 15 years, loans of 6 or 7 years duration have become common because of the higher price of cars. It just, the payments would have been much too high to continue with what was the typical 3 to 5 years for car loans. So now you can get a car loan for 6 or 7 years. One has to understand that longer loan terms and higher interest rates will significantly increase the actual cost of the car over time. So if you buy a car for, let's say, $25,000 and you're paying for it for 7 or 8 years with a high interest rate, you're probably going to pay maybe like $75,000 for the car in total in the end. Most people don't even think about that at all. Okay, now there's some really unique market conditions going on right now, and they were actually worthy of a lot of media attention. Some of the next little section here is going to be taken from a 3-page article that was in Newsday a couple of Sundays ago about what's going on with the price of cars and the lack of availability of cars, low inventory. It's really, this kind of situation has really never happened before. The current market for new and used cars, whether for lease or purchase, is in an unprecedented situation. Due to the supply chain issues caused by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, including a severe shortage of microchips, there is a severe shortage of new cars. As the demand for cars is increasing, the lack of new car inventory is causing long wait times for purchases, as well as significant increases in the price of both new and used cars. The shortage of car inventory has been well publicized in recent media. A Newsday article published Sunday, May 1st, 2022, was entitled Sticker Shock, it should be, Sticker shock at the dealership. The article cited recent statistic from Edmunds. Edmunds is an automotive statistical company based in California that indicate that the average used car price is now $29,969, and that the average new car price is $46,426. Edmunds noticed that the used car price was 25.7% higher than a year ago, and the new car price was 14.4% higher than a year ago. In addition to consumers having to pay higher prices, there is reportedly long wait times for cars. For this reason, many consumers at the end of leases are now purchasing the car they already have, as they would have to wait too long for a new replacement, which would also be more costly than the buyout of the current vehicle. So I personally know 3 people that this happened to. They wanted to send their car back to the dealer at the end of the lease, and then dealers had no cars for them. So they just, all 3 of them just decided to just buy out the car that they had and keep it. Another consequence of this inventory shortage is that the resale price of used cars has increased dramatically, and dealers are actively soliciting used cars so that they can resell them. So the advice here is that if one has a used car that you're thinking of getting rid of, check carefully so that you do not undersell it in the secondary market. Even cars that do not appear to be worth much now have increased resale value due to the extremely low inventory. Now, it's just interesting, as I was writing this this part of the webinar, that 3 times this week, my dealership that I bought my car from has texted me to ask me if I want to sell them back the car. Now, I mean, it's a very nice car, but I've had the car already since 2018. So they're contacting me now. They want a car that I bought 4 years ago. They want to know if I want to sell it back to them because they don't have enough cars on the lot. But I don't want to do it because, number one, I like my car, and number two, then what am I going to get? So it's kind of like a vicious cycle right now. But I've never in all the time I've had new or used cars, had a dealership contact me to sell the car back to them. So it's kind of really interesting what's happening. So basically, if you have a car, don't undervalue it. Just hang on to it, or if someone wants to buy it from you, make sure you know what you should sell it for and get top dollar for it. So thank you for listening, and I hope that this was informative to help you in making decisions about buying or leasing cars.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That was again valuable information. It's like so crazy. A couple of months ago, we were about to travel. We ended up not doing it, but we were looking for cars for rental cars, and they're not even rental cars anywhere.
That's really true. Right, there's a shortage of rental cars too. This whole situation spills over into many different aspects of any kind of cars that are needed. So that's true. If you want to rent a car, you have to really try to locate one way in advance.
That is true. So if anyone has any questions, I know some people got here a little late and miss the beginning of the presentation. I want to make sure I tell you that you can watch these and any past webinars and workshops on our website. Lana, Lana is our volunteer here. If you be so kind of sharing our past events page, that would be great. And again, like if anyone has any questions, I have a couple of questions, but let me see what's in the chat. Yes, Lana, just share where to follow us. And this will be on our YouTube channel, and she just shared the past events website. But I want to well, again, it was very useful information. I would have never thought of doing some of the stuff that you said that we should do. The car reports, like all the information that they can provide. I never thought of doing that, and I should have when buying a used car. I wanted to ask you, what do you have any advice in terms of most people buy from dealerships, but some people fewer people buy from someone, from a person, from an individual. Do you have any advice on that? You know, buying from the dealership versus buying from your neighbor who's selling the car?
Well, I think obviously it would be best if everyone could buy from a dealership, but because that provides the most protection and warranties, and you have someone that you can go back to and complain to if there's a problem. But obviously, there's a very big market for people buying from their neighbors, or buying from the internet, things like that. That's where you really have to be most careful. That's where, like, the Carfax, the vehicle history report, becomes really important. So, to know exactly what are you buying, or try to know as best as you can what are you buying. And in that case, definitely you should get a mechanic to not only come and just give the car a little look over. In the case of a private person, you should try to actually have the car put on a lift and checked out mechanically, as well as to have all the paperwork information. Check the chain of title, make sure, God forbid, it was never stolen or something like that. There's all kinds of weird things that could happen. So.
Thank you, Kathy. That's good advice again. And like that about the mechanic, taking your mechanic to the dealership, right? Like that, I would have never thought of doing that, but it's definitely the next time I buy a car.
I know it sounds a little weird, but it can, save you from a lot of headaches. And, obviously just pay the mechanic or whatever you need to do. And I'm sure that they wouldn't mind. So.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Thank you. And then finally, is there anything that you, like the article that you cited, that says like the supply chain issues that we're having and the shortages and like microchips and everything that is used to make cars? Any like prediction of like how long is it going to last? Is it better to sell your used car to the dealership now, because then the prices will go down again, or we just don't know when that's going to happen? I know that there's so many factors that play a role here.
Yeah, I think that right at this time, we really don't know, but everything that I've been reading seems to indicate that it's gonna go on for a while, like maybe at least another year, because everything is so far behind that it's gonna take them quite a while to catch up. So it seems that, this is not a situation that's gonna go away overnight. I don't want to say, oh, it's gonna last 2 or 3 years, but I think it seems like it's definitely gonna be going on for another year at least. So.
Thank you. So maybe hold on for a little longer.
Yes.
There's a question here. It says that, can you negotiate the cost to buy out your lease vehicle?
Yes, I believe that you can. I don't want to give the wrong answer to that, because I've actually personally never leased a car, because I do drive quite a bit, so I always have to buy my cars. But based on information from my clients and other people that I've spoken to, I think that there is some room for negotiation. I believe that the residual value is established at the time that you sign the lease, but I don't think it's actually it's not cut in stone. Like, you can negotiate it somewhat. I don't think it's like heavily negotiable, but I think it's a little negotiable.
Thank you, Kathy. And definitely for when the dealerships ask you to sell them the car, that's negotiable, right?
Oh, sure.
Try
Absolutely.
to get as much as possible, especially right now. Right. Are there any more questions from anyone? Please feel free to put them in the chat. I continue to my last few slides. I want to share again that we have some upcoming events. We have the ceremony on the street co-naming in honor of our founder, Julian Jawin, this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Please look on our website for addresses. We have a gardening and sustainability workshop series, and we just had one a week ago. The next one is May 26th, and then June 9th and 23rd from 10 to 11. We have the International Yoga Day on Saturday, June 4th from 10 to 12, and the Artivism exhibit, Art for a Purpose. On Saturday, we had a couple already, and we had one this Saturday from 1 to 5, and June 11th and 18th. And I see we have a question here. It says, can you comment on purchasing via online, sight unseen?
Well, that I'm not really that familiar with about how to buy the cars online. But usually when you look the cars up online, you, at least, in my experience, if we look the car up online, then we actually do go to see it at some point. It's not that you actually never see it until you purchase it. I mean, I would say any vehicle that you buy anywhere, whether it's online or at a dealership from a neighbor, you have to see the vehicle at some point before you actually make the purchase. But if you buy it online, you should make arrangements to actually see the car before you make the deal. So, but I think
And
online is a good way to find the cars. I mean, especially now, because a lot of the cars that people may be interested in may be in other states. So the only way to actually start to see them is to see them online. So, but then I would say definitely, even if they're in another state, go to see them in person before you actually put out any money or sign any paperwork.
And read the contract, right?
Yes, definitely.
So finally, if you'd like to become a member, the Center for the Women of New York offers these free services. We do depend on small grants, our own fundraising and membership. So if you'd like to become a member, you'll be supporting the free programs that we offer that we mentioned earlier. You can become a member at www.cwny.org/membership. And I think Lana is copying that in the chat. I'm gonna make sure it's not a question. Yes, thank you, Lana. And you can also donate, cwny.org/donation. We appreciate, no donation is too small. And then again, we do have 2 locations. They're also on our website. And you can always contact us via email if you have ideas or like for workshops, even for the financial literacy workshops. We're happy to hear your voices and know what you want to have offered by us. All right, and again, I think Lana already copied these on the chat. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and we do have a podcast that started last year. We had a few episodes there. All right, thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you everyone who attended the webinar, the workshop. I hope you found this information useful. I did. I'll take all these advice from Kathy into consideration next time I buy a car.